What if the greatest threat to your happiness, success, and peace of mind isn't out there but buried deep inside you? Imagine for a moment the dreams you've abandoned, the relationships you've sabotaged, and the potential you've ignored not because you weren't capable, but because you refused to confront the one thing that scares you most: your own shadow. Nietzsche once said, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you." But what if the monster you're fighting isn't out there? What if it's within you and ignoring it is slowly, quietly destroying your life? Act 1. What is the shadow? Psychologist Carl Jung called it the shadow, the darker, hidden parts of ourselves that we suppress because they make us uncomfortable. It's the envy you feel but don't admit, the anger you hide behind a smile, the selfish desires you pretend don't exist. These aren't flaws to be ashamed of, they're parts of you that you've cast into the darkness because you fear what they might say about who you are. Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Ignoring your shadow doesn't make it disappear. It festers in the background, sabotaging your relationships, clouding your decisions, and keeping you from becoming who you're meant to be. Nietzsche agreed. He believed confronting and integrating our darker sides is the only way to achieve greatness. He called this process becoming who you are. To ignore your dark side is to remain a fractured version of yourself, forever at war with what you cannot face. Act 2. How your shadow destroys you. When you suppress your shadow, you don't make it powerless, and you make it dangerous. The shadow thrives in denial. Think about it. How often have you blamed others for your problems? How often have you lashed out or sabotaged yourself in ways you couldn't explain? This is the shadow at work, controlling you from the shadows, whispering in the dark corners of your mind. Nietzsche wrote, "Man is something that shall be overcome." He understood that to ignore the darker parts of yourself is to let them rule you in ways you can't see or control. The more you deny your shadow, the more it manifests as anxiety, guilt, and self-doubt, pulling you away from your goals and desires. Jung saw the shadow as a reflection of all the potential we refuse to embrace. By rejecting our anger, we reject our ability to assert ourselves. We miss the chance to understand what we truly desire by suppressing our envy. The shadow isn't just darkness, it's unrealized power. But to access it, you must face it. Act 3. Why facing your dark side feels impossible. Facing your shadow is terrifying because it requires confronting parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. Nietzsche understood this better than anyone. The man who has a way to live can bear almost anyhow. Staring into the abyss of one's flaws and fears, the inward journey feels unbearable unless one understands its purpose. We avoid shadows because it's easier to stay comfortable. But as Jung reminds us, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The pain of acknowledging your weaknesses, mistakes, and darkest desires is immense. But what is the alternative? To let the shadow control you in silence, to let it quietly destroy everything you could be. Act 4. The power of integration. The paradox of the shadow is that the very thing you fear the most holds the key to your freedom. Nietzsche believed we could rise above mediocrity only by embracing chaos. He called this transformation the path to becoming the Overman, Übermensch, someone who creates their values and lives authentically, unburdened by societal norms or self-deception. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star, Nietzsche wrote. Your shadow is that chaos. When you integrate it and confront it head-on, you unlock the power to create something extraordinary from the parts of yourself you once feared. For Jung, integration means bringing the shadow into the light, not eliminating it, but accepting it as part of who you are. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, he said, and you cannot become whole if you are running from yourself. Act 5. The path to transformation. So how do you begin this journey? The first step is honesty. Nietzsche challenged us to ask, what lies am I telling myself? Jung encouraged self-reflection through journaling, therapy, or deep introspection. The goal is to uncover the fears, desires, and insecurities you've buried. The second step is courage. Staring into your shadow will reveal things you won't like that will shake your sense of self. But remember Nietzsche's words, what does not kill me makes me stronger. Each truth you uncover, each flaw you embrace, makes you more resilient and complete. Finally, practice compassion. Jung emphasized that the shadow is not your enemy, it's a part of you that needs understanding. By embracing it, you transform it from a destructive force into a source of wisdom, strength, and creativity. Act 6. The hidden gift of the shadow. But here's the profound paradox. Your most significant potential lies within the shadow. Every trait you suppress, anger, jealousy, ambition, carries the seeds of transformation. Anger becomes courage when directed toward injustice. Envy reveals what you truly desire and drives you to achieve it. Ambition, tempered by wisdom, fuels your path toward greatness. Jung believed that the shadow is not just darkness, it is an unrealized power waiting to be claimed. Nietzsche called this process sublimation, transforming raw, chaotic emotions into something creative and life-affirming. He wrote, "You must become a sea to receive a polluted stream without becoming unclean." Facing your shadow allows you to harness its energy, turning your deepest fears into your greatest strengths. When you embrace the parts of yourself you once rejected, you stop being a victim of your circumstances and start shaping your destiny. Conclusion: the reward for facing yourself. Nietzsche and Jung understood that greatness lies on the other side of fear. Ignoring your dark side may feel safe but can harm your growth, happiness, and potential. Facing it, on the other hand, is the most courageous act you can undertake. As Nietzsche said, you must become the master and owner of your house. The choice is yours. Will you keep running from your dark side, letting it destroy you in silence? Or will you face it, transform it, and become the person you were always meant to be? Now, the mirror is in your hands. What will you see when you finally turn to face yourself?